In the Ottoman Empire, taking the throne could get you killed just as easily as it could crown you. Some princes spent years locked away in a palace cage, waiting on a crown that might never come. Others fought their way there, through wars, coups, and the deaths of their own brothers. One sultan alone had 19 brothers strangled in a single day just to clear the way. So here's exactly how all 36 Ottoman sultans took the throne, and who they had to go through to get it. Start at the very top. Osman I. Nothing dramatic here. He inherited leadership from his father Ertugrul and built the whole Ottoman house from nothing in 1299. When he died in 1326, his son Orhan just took over. Orhan also hands it down peacefully to his son Murad I. But Murad is the one who breaks the pattern. The moment he's in power, he has his own brothers Halil and Ibrahim killed. That's the first recorded royal fratricide in this family's history. Murad himself gets assassinated on the battlefield at Kosovo in 1389, and his son Bayezid, standing right there with the army, just claims the throne on the spot. Bayezid earns the name the Thunderbolt, and the first thing he does as sultan is have his own brother Yaqub strangled with a bowstring. That's how fast this family moves now. But Bayezid's own story ends badly. Timur captures him at the Battle of Ankara in 1402, and he dies in captivity a year later. This time, there's no clear heir standing over the body, so his sons tear the empire apart for 10 straight years. A stretch historians just call the interregnum. Musa kills Suleiman. Then Mehmed defeats and kills both Musa and Isa to put the empire back together as Mehmed I, the restorer. Mehmed dies of natural causes, but even he can't resist one last move before he goes. He blinds his nephew Orhan, just to remove a possible rival. His son Murad II takes over next, and Murad does something nobody expects. Years into his reign, grieving his eldest son and worn out by constant war, he voluntarily hands the throne to his 12-year-old son Mehmed. That kid can't hold the empire together, though. A crusade and a Janissary revolt drag Murad back out of retirement. So Mehmed becomes sultan a second time in 1451, now 19, and this is the one who changes everything. Mehmed II, the Conqueror. He takes Constantinople in 1453. Everyone knows that part. What people forget is that right after his second coronation, he had his own infant half-brother drowned, and then he wrote fratricide into actual law, saying a new sultan is permitted to execute his brothers for the good of the state. When Mehmed dies in 1481, his own two sons, Bayezid and Cem, fight a civil war over the throne. Bayezid wins. Cem loses and dies in exile years later. Bayezid II rules for 30 years, but eventually his own son Selim rebels against him, wins Janissary backing, and forces his father off the throne in 1512. Bayezid dies just weeks later. Selim, now known as the Grim, doesn't stop there either. He hunts down and kills his brothers Ahmed and Korkut, along with a string of nephews, until nobody's left to challenge him, which is exactly why his son Suleiman has the smoothest ascension on this whole chart. Suleiman the Magnificent takes the throne with zero opposition in 1520, because his father already cleared the board for him. Ironically, later in his own reign, Suleiman ends up executing two of his own sons over suspected treason. When he dies during a military siege in 1566, his death gets hidden for weeks, so his son Selim II can be safely installed before anyone thinks to challenge him. Selim II doesn't even have to fight. His rival brothers were already gone, taken out earlier by smallpox, strangulation, and a failed revolt. Same story with his son Murad III, except Murad orders all 5 of his younger brothers strangled the day he takes power, just to be sure. Then we hit the line on this chart that stops people cold. Murad's son, Mehmed III, 19 half-brothers, strangled, in a single day, some of them still infants. He also had his father's pregnant concubines drowned in the Bosphorus, erasing any future rival before it was even born. This is the one historians point to when they call it the bloodiest ascension in Ottoman history. After that, the family actually pulls back. Mehmed's son Ahmed I becomes sultan at 13, and he deliberately breaks tradition. He spares his brother Mustafa instead of killing him. Mustafa gets locked away instead, in a section of the palace called the cafes, the cage. That single decision reshapes the entire system going forward. No more automatic slaughter of every brother. just permanent imprisonment instead. So when Ahmed dies young in 1617, his brother Mustafa becomes sultan. The first time in this family a brother inherits instead of a son. But 14 years locked in the cafes have already broken him, and he's deposed within a year for his nephew Osman II. Osman tries to reform the army, and the Janissaries do not take that well. In 1622 they revolt, depose him, and strangle him at Yedikule, the first Ottoman sultan ever killed by his own soldiers. Mustafa gets pulled back onto the throne after that, rules as basically a puppet for a year, then gets declared unfit again and deposed for good. His 11-year-old nephew Murad IV takes over next. Murad grows up and eventually executes his own brothers and thousands of officials just to reassert control, but he spares one, Ibrahim, the last surviving male in the entire dynasty. So when Murad dies of cirrhosis in 1640, Ibrahim has no choice but to take the throne, even though 20 years locked in the cafes have left him paranoid and mentally unstable. History just calls him Ibrahim the Mad. His erratic rule triggers another Janissary conspiracy, and in 1648 he's deposed and strangled. His 6-year-old son Mehmed IV takes over next, with his grandmother and later his mother actually running the empire behind him. Mehmed IV gets deposed after the defeat at Vienna in 1683, and his brother Suleiman II takes over after nearly 39 years in that cage. Then his brother Ahmed II, after 43 years confined. Mustafa II gets forced to abdicate by a military mutiny in 1703. His brother Ahmed III rules through the peaceful, artistic tulip era until a revolt led by Patrona Halil pushes him out too. He hands power to his nephew Mahmud and retires into the cafes himself. Mahmud I executes the rebellion's leader to restore order, then dies without sons. So his half-brother Osman III steps up next, after 51 years locked away. That's the longest confinement of any Ottoman prince ever. The 18th century rolls through mostly peaceful successions, cousins, brothers, nephews, but the empire itself keeps getting weaker underneath them. Selim III tries real reform in the 1790s, gets deposed by a Janissary revolt in 1807, and is later murdered on the orders of his own cousin and successor, Mustafa IV. Mustafa doesn't get away with it either. Reformist forces depose him too, and he's later strangled on the orders of the man who replaces him, Mahmud II. Once he's on the throne, he wipes out the entire Janissary corps in 1826, making sure this exact cycle of soldier-led coups can never happen to him. After that, successions get noticeably calmer. Abdulmecid I, then his half-brother Abdulaziz. Though Abdulaziz's own ending is murky, he dies from blood loss after a wrist wound, just days after being deposed in a coup, officially ruled a suicide, though plenty of historians suspect otherwise. His nephew Murad V lasts just 93 days before he's declared unfit and deposed, the shortest reign in the entire dynasty. His brother Abdulhamid II rules for 33 years as a strict autocrat, until the Young Turk Revolution finally pushes him out in 1908. After him comes Mehmed V, mostly a figurehead, followed by Mehmed VI, the last actual sultan, who flees Istanbul on a British warship in 1922 as the Sultanate itself gets abolished. One cousin, Abdülmecid II, is left holding nothing but the title of Caliph, and even that gets abolished in 1924, closing out 6 centuries of one family's rule. 36 sultans, one dynasty, and on this chart alone, you'll count fratricide, poison, strangulation, a purpose-built cage, mutinies, and at least one warship escape. Which ascension on here caught you the most off guard?